Bags down, spikes on. Welcome to the track. Hi, my name's Colin Weitzman. I'm going to be your host for this episode of Track World News. And before we get into everything, make sure that you leave a like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a review. Really helps us know that you're enjoying the content and enjoying what we're putting out here. And have had a lot of support recently, and it's been super awesome. So please keep that up. Be much appreciated. First story of the day. We have some great news. So normally when it comes to some, news about track programs, it's not so great. And what was this? About 6 months ago, we were talking about the inverse of this. But as you can see in the title, Clemson track and field has returned. So for those that don't know, during the height of the pandemic, I believe it was 6 months ago, almost exactly, the athletic department announced that they were going to be cutting men's cross country, indoor, and outdoor track and field. And obviously this hit the community really hard because this is a major program that, was announcing they're going to be shutting the doors on a team that has a lot of really great and deep history, also one of the premier indoor facilities in the United States. And to hear that they were going to be cutting half of their track and field program was pretty astonishing. And this was not the only program that was being told that they're going to be shutting its doors, along with Minnesota and William and Mary, which was all around almost the exact same time during the pandemic. They were all claiming the same reasons, essentially, COVID-19 as well as Title IX for some of it. I believe William and Mary as well as Clemson claimed that. And so this was really destroying it. It hurt the community. And the biggest part of it was Clemson was super rigid on what they said. They didn't say, oh, well, we're shutting it down and we'll look at it later based off the financials. So we're shutting it down and, it could come back or, we never know. They didn't say that. They said Clemson's men's indoor, outdoor, and cross country is shutting down for good. It will not be revisited. This is the final decision. It was like in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the contestant says final answer, and they say final answer. That's exactly what happened. And well, we can see it wasn't really their final answer, and to the benefit it wasn't. The track community rallied behind Clemson, really led by Russell Dinkins. If you're listening to this, Russell, thank you so much for everything you've done for track and field. He's a 2013 graduate of Princeton. He's actually helped Brown, Minnesota, and William and Mary all return their track and field programs and reinstate them. So he's been integral in finding out when these programs are being announced to be cut, saying, no, we're not doing this. And I think one thing that really helped them get Clemson back was the fact that they were getting like governors and the law involved. They were getting, I remember seeing them talk about this, whether it's on the Senate floor in South Carolina. You've probably seen the clips of people saying how wrong this was. So yeah, it's great to see that they're back. They announced saying, oh yeah, we've revisited and we've revised our financial projections, and it turns out that everything's going to be just fine. It's like, oh yeah, of course. So it took you took you 6 months, and all of this that we had campaigned that had nothing to do with it. I bet, of course not. You just revisited the financial projections and found out. Silly me, the comma was in the wrong place. It turns out we do have $2 million. We thought we only had 2,000. Turns out we have 2 million. Of course, yeah, that's probably exactly what happened, right? No, I think that they were getting a ton of pressure from the track and field community and realized that this would be a terrible decision because they'd be cutting one of the premier programs in the entire nation and limiting who's going to be going to the university. Not only did they reinstate men's track and field, but they also brought in another women's team. I can't remember exactly what sport it is off the top of my head. I apologize, but they actually ended up adding new programs instead of just cutting. So this overall a great day for our sport. One thing that does stink is they've lost a few athletes. If you saw there's been a few athletes that either have already announced they're transferring or have left the university, so it stinks for them. I'm sure also the recruiting class for Clemson is probably going to be pretty limited for next year, seeing that this was a year that a lot of athletes probably just cut off Clemson as a team to be looking at. And so next year they'll probably be hurting for recruits, but I'm sure the year after that they should hopefully be back with everything. So glad to see that Clemson is coming back, and excited to see what's going on in the future there. And then next year, want to go off some just quick hitters of what I saw from this previous weekend. There were some really exciting performances that I wanted to capture. So first, Fred Curley. This dude can do anything, man. He just ran a 9.91, which is the world lead in the 100. And he's the third athlete ever to run a sub 10 and a sub 44 in the 400. So sub 10 seconds in the 100, sub 44 in the 400. And he's showing that he's just unstoppable in any distance. And if you wanted to do the 100 meters in the Olympics, he could at this point, and he would be, I would say, the favorite. If I saw his name on the start list for the Olympic trials in the 100, I'd be like, that's a bad man. I can't go against him, he's just showing that he has a tremendous amount of range. And I'm wondering if this is going to be the new formula for track and field athletes, that there's going to be less specialists in just the 100 and just the 200. But are we going to see more 400 meter runners that show they have the range to go all the way down to the 100? We see this clearly with Fred Curley right now. We also see it with Michael Norman, who's shown that he can run fast times, and including his training partner, Ry Benjamin. They all three of these guys show that they can run insane times all the way down from the 100 to the 400. Wade Van Niekert as well. When will one of these guys decide that they're going to go into the 100? Because right now, I know that the schedule for 2020 and 2021 has been a little more difficult, so some people haven't run their best times just yet. I'm gonna get into that with the next topic on some athletes that are not doing so hot right now. But if he wanted to put his name in the hat for that 100 meters, he could, and he'd be dangerous. So excellent performance by Curley. Looking forward to seeing what he does here at the Olympic trials. Next, there was too many to go over, but LSU just continues to dominate, not only on the men's side, where I think everyone saw that they were going to dominate, because had the cross country championships not happened when it did, and it would have been a normal season, I think they would have had a really, really good shot at capturing an indoor national title. With it being a regular outdoor national championship, I think everyone kind of saw that they were going to be the favorites going into it, because and they are. So the men are doing fantastic, but the women are as well. Both programs right now are actually currently seated number 1 in the nation for both the men and the women's teams. So they're just continuing to dominate. They have several world leads. I think 5 world leading times across both the men and the women's teams in the sprints and in the jumps. I think the hurdles as well. So they're just performing. Awesome school. If you want to hear about the LSU culture that they have, just on Saturday, I actually did an interview with Noah Williams, where he actually talks about the culture that LSU track and field has, and just kind of the championship mindset you have to have if you want to be successful. So quick plug, if you want to check that out, I definitely would. It was a cool conversation, and really gets you inside what's going on at LSU for those practices and those meets. So fantastic program they have going on there. Next, performance that was super exciting, and I'm glad happened, to say the least. Trayvon Bermel. Trayvon Bermel is back, man. So he ran a 10.01 into a slight headwind. I think it was 0.2 miles per hour headwind, so nothing too crazy, too serious. But this was his first major win in 7 years. He's been out of commission for a while. The last time that he was running these fast times was 2014. I mean, so seeing that it's been an entire Olympic cycle since he's been able to run due to just injuries and other things going on, and now he's showing that he's back. I mean, if you watch the race, even if you didn't watch the race, he had probably the most explosive start off the blocks. It was clear from the beginning of the race that he was going to win, and there was no shot anyone was going to be able to catch him. I mean, Lyles, no shot. Like, it was just, he was out like a bullet and was an easy victory for him. And so I'm glad to see that he's coming back. He did an interview after the race saying that, it's not about the times. I'm trying to make a story here. It's not about the injuries. He's a super humble guy, and it was great to see that he's back. And with this, it also makes the track and field, the 100, even more interesting. I mean, obviously we wish that Christian Coleman could be competing, because then it would be extremely interesting, like who's going to be getting in. But now there's a lot of really good runners that aren't going to be making the 100-meter final. I mean, just looking at who we have right now, we have Trayvon Bermel, Justin Gatlin, Noah Lyles, Ronnie Baker. Just of those four, at least one of them is not going to make it. And those are some of the top four runners in the world right now. And so one of them's not going to make it. And also, none of them are the world leading time right now, because that's what Fred Curley has. I mean, looking at all these guys, none of them, I don't think, have run their best races yet. And of course not, because they're waiting to be peaking towards the end of the summer. But people like, I think Lyles, I mean, he's got to start, picking things up a little bit. I know that he usually starts off slower in the season, but I mean, right now we're less than 100 days out. We're 3 months out of the Olympics, and right now he's 10th in the nation in the 100, and I think 18th in the world. So, I mean, yeah, and I know that you're one of the favorites, and you probably aren't too upset or thinking too much about where he's ranking right now, but I mean, at some point, it's going to have to be like, all right, like let's start dropping some good times here. I mean, he ran a 10.18 in this past meet, which is, I mean, it's not good enough to get the job done. I mean, it's competitive here in the United States right now. There's going to be a lot of good people that are left out of the 100-meter final. There's going to be a lot, because we're seeing some crazy times being dropped this season by especially some really talented collegiate athletes. And those collegiate athletes are going to be bringing their A game this entire time. And so if runners want to make sure that they're going to be making this Olympic team, if you want to be in this top three, you're going to have to be dropping some crazy times as well. So there will be some great athletes that are going to miss out. And I'm interested to see what happens there, because it's gonna be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. Next, let's get into something that happened earlier last week. So it's been some time since this announcement, but Casey Lightfoot, he actually signed with Puma. I wish that I tweeted it out. I had talked to a few of my friends saying that he was going to sign with Puma. I wish that I tweeted out my prediction so I could have officially had it in the record books. It means nothing now, obviously, because you can just say, oh, Colin, of course you're saying that because you just want to think that you're right. But I promise you, I predicted he was going to Puma. Why? I mean, it was the preemptive favorite, obviously. I mean, Puma has all of the best pole vaulters in the world right now that were not under contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if once Sam Kendrick's contract is up, he goes to Puma. He's with Nike. I think he's one of the only major vaulters right now that is not with Puma, especially on the men's side. Because listen to the roster right now. This is just a few of them, so there's still some athletes that aren't there. But they have Sandy Morris, Mondo Duplantis, Renaud Lavillenie, Peter Lysak, and now Casey Lightfoot. I mean, that's just a insane group that is competing all under one name. That's essentially your all-star caliber list. And so he's joining a fantastic squad. And once again, I'm saying what is this going to mean for the regular track and field and pole vaulting fan? Are they going to come out with signature shoes? Are they going to be coming out with signature gear? I mean, if you're sponsored by these things, it doesn't mean anything, at least to us, unless you see something that we can have with either their name on it, brand on it, whatever it is. I mean, you see basketball teams have basketball shoes with LeBron signatures, Kobe's, Michael, like Jordan's, all Russell Westbrook's, all these shoes from these, prominent basketball players. When are we going to see track spikes that are, the Air Mondos? I mean, obviously it wouldn't be the Air Mondos, but like the Mondo pole vault elites or the Renault elites, like whatever it is. Like, let's see you use these athletes' brands to actually grow the sport, because I promise you, if you come out with pole vaulting spikes that have the best vaulters' names on it, branded, they got their own thing, a ton of vaulters are going to get it. Same with any other track event, because there isn't anything like that. You just have the traditional standard shoe spike. Let's get something going on there. So love to see that. Final story, unfortunately going to be ending on a little bit of a sad note here, but it's an important topic nonetheless. So just recently, the IOC, so the International Olympic Committee, bans the Black Lives Matter sentiment and taking a knee during the anthem or raising a fist while on Olympic property. And so this was something that really took me aback. Like, we've seen all during the heat of what's going on within sports and the racial tensions, especially throughout the United States. I recognize that the Olympics is not just the United States. It is also, of course, the entire world. And I can't speak on everything that's going on throughout the entire world because I'm from the United States. So for anyone that's listening that is living in another country, and you could give me an idea of what the views are on things, going on within here in your country, please let me know, because I can only speak on what's going on here in the United States. Having this ban is just, it seems outrageously inept, because it's something it's an issue that is such a hot topic here in the United States, and even leagues that were staunchly against, all of these sentiments, like the NFL, who they pretty much ended an entire player's career, Colin Kaepernick, because of doing these exact things. And they've now completely changed their fiddle and are on the other side of things. They've realized the mistakes that they've made in the past. And to see that the IOC is taking this stance right now is terrible, I think, for the sport. And it's not just track and field. This is all the Olympics. Now, to let it be known, not everyone agrees with the sentiment that is in the decision-making process. The World Athletics president, Sebastian Coe, actually is in support of athletes being able to use their freedom of speech during the Olympic Games. He said that this is something, an action that should not be taken, and athletes should be able to either take a knee, raise a fist, utilize Black Lives Matter, whatever it might be, within their sport. And something that I think is interesting will be, since you're banning all these things, one sport that is super huge right now, the biggest sport in the world, obviously, is basketball. And NBA players have really gone hand in hand right now with Black Lives Matter and taking a knee or raising a fist in solidarity. NBA's taken has been very, very hand in hand with that. And obviously the basketball or Team USA and just other basketball teams and nations, a lot of those players are in the NBA. And so I'm telling you, if LeBron wants to be on the Olympic team, or Kevin Durant, or if any of these players that want to be on the Olympic team want to show Black Lives Matter, whatever it is, how are they going to stop them? These names are larger than the Olympics. LeBron's name is larger than the Olympics. How are you going to control him and say that he can't, utilize his First Amendment rights? And, obviously you're in a different country and this is under international, other international jurisdiction or whatever, but how are you going to stop that? I mean, do we not remember what happened in Mexico in 1968? Probably the most iconic photo in Olympics history, with Tommie Smith and John Carlos raising a fist with the black glove on during the playing of the national anthem of the 200 meter medal ceremony. Do we not remember that was a huge moment for civil rights and for sports in general? Now, obviously, it's clear they didn't, because they didn't even, agree with it then, because they were, banned then from the Olympics and were not even, they originally didn't want to give them their medals or strip them of the medals, but eventually got it. Like they faced a lot of scrutiny then, but it's crazy that athletes are still facing the same scrutiny now that Tommie Smith and John Carlos faced in 1968. That if Noah Lyles or if Michael Norman or if Rai Benjamin are standing on the medal stand in the 2021 Olympics, they could face the exact same scrutiny that athletes in 1968 faced. That is insane to me, that is an issue that is going on in our sport, and it is a story that we have to talk about now, because it should not be something that we're still, talking about. This shouldn't be an issue going on in our society. It said on a poll that 70% of the 3,500 athletes that they polled said they would rather not have these sediments be in the in the Olympics, because it would take away from their competition and take away from being an athlete. I would love to see those polls. I mean, I'd love to see the 70% of the athletes, like what countries, where they came from, what sports they came from, because I think it's just interesting. It's eye-opening to me that this is something that is such a hot button issue here in the United States, and it's clearly something that other people, see as a distraction. And so maybe that's just, I'm seeing the world from the lens of the United States. And so maybe it is something that athletes from other nations are like, hey, this is something that we'd rather not see. If it is, like, I'm open to listening to why they say that. But just from my point of view, it seems like a disservice to civil rights and to, athletes as a whole. But that's just my opinion. Love to hear what you guys have to think. Thank you to everyone who has listened to this episode of Track World News. I hope that you have enjoyed. If you would like some more content, make sure you can go follow us on Instagram at Track World News. We post clips, news stories, everything like that. Got some huge news coming out soon, so do not miss that. Make sure you stay tuned on our Instagram, as well as make sure that you give us a follow, subscribe, share, leave a review. Really helps us know that you're enjoying the content and everything we're producing so far. Have a good one, and I'll see you later. Peace.